I turned off my phone for 72 hours. No Instagram, no TikTok, no YouTube, no messages, no quick escapes. Just silence and my own mind. At first, I thought it would be impossible. But by the end of those 72 hours, I felt something I had not felt in years. Clarity, real focus, and a kind of peace I did not know I was missing. Before this challenge, my life felt like a blur. I would wake up in the morning and reach for my phone without thinking. Before my feet even touched the floor, my brain was already being pulled in 10 different directions. One notification, one message, one video, then another. I kept telling myself I was just checking something quick. But quick turned into 20 minutes, then 40, then an hour. And the worst part was not even the time. It was the way my mind started to feel. Always restless, always tired, always distracted. Even when I sat down to work, I could not stay with one thought for more than a few seconds. My mind kept jumping. I would open one tab, then another, start one task, then quit, pick up my phone, put it down, and pick it up again. It felt like my brain had been trained to avoid silence. And honestly, I was scared of that, because deep down, I knew this was not just bad habits. This was becoming my normal. One night, I sat alone in my room and just stared at the wall. No music, no scrolling, no noise, just me and the truth. I asked myself a question that hit harder than I expected. When was the last time I was truly focused? Not pretending, not half-working, not distracted, but truly focused. I could not remember. That was the moment I knew something had to change. So I made a decision. For the next 72 hours, I would go into monk mode. The rules were simple and absolute. No social media, no unnecessary phone use, no junk dopamine, no random videos, no endless scrolling, no background music, and no quick escapes whenever I felt bored. Only the things that actually build a strong mind were allowed. Work, reading, thinking, writing, walking, and silence. That was it. No excuses, no bargaining, no, just 1 minute. I was going to give my brain a complete break from the noise, and for 72 hours, I was going to find out who I really was without all of it. Day 1 was brutal. The first thing I noticed was how automatic my habits were. I reached for my phone like I always do, then stopped myself. That simple moment felt weirdly painful. It showed me just how deep the habit had gone. I sat at my desk and tried to work, but my brain refused to settle. Every few seconds I felt an urge to check something, and every minute I wanted a tiny hit of stimulation. The boredom was not soft boredom. It was loud and restless, and it made me uncomfortable in my own skin. I kept thinking, this is too quiet, this is too slow, this is too hard, maybe I should just check one thing. But I did not. I sat there, and slowly, the urge began to rise, not just the urge to use my phone, but the urge to escape. Because when the noise disappears, the mind starts talking. And on day 1, my mind had a lot to say. It brought up everything I had been ignoring, the goals I kept delaying, the work I kept postponing, the habits I kept promising to fix, the life I kept saying I would start. That was uncomfortable, because distraction had been quietly protecting me from all of it. By evening, I felt mentally drained even though I had done very little. That is the strange thing about constant stimulation. It does not always make you productive. Sometimes it just makes you tired. That night, I lay in bed desperately wanting to grab my phone, not because I needed anything, but simply because I wanted relief. But I stayed still, and for the first time in a long time, I sat alone with my own thoughts. That part was not easy, but it was honest. Day 2 felt different. Not easy, but different. The first thing I noticed was that I was not fighting the phone as much. The urge was still there, but it was weaker, less like a scream and more like background noise. That small change meant everything. I woke up and did not reach for my phone right away. That alone felt powerful. I made my bed, washed my face, and sat down with my notebook to write out my plan for the day. And for the first time in a while, I did not feel mentally scattered before the day had even started. When I began working, something surprising happened. I stayed with one task. Just one. No switching, no random checking, no. Let me just see something real quick. I could feel my attention getting stronger. Not perfect, not magical, but stronger. Later, I went for a walk without music or podcasts. At first the silence felt uncomfortable, but after a few minutes it started to feel clean. I noticed small things again. The sound of my footsteps, the air on my face, the sky above me. The simple feeling of being present. That is when I realized something important. My brain had been moving so fast for so long that stillness had started to feel unfamiliar. But unfamiliar did not mean bad. It meant I was healing. That evening, I wrote again, not for content, not for views, not for an audience, just for myself. And the thoughts on the page were clearer than anything I had written in months. My mind was slowing down, and in that slowing down, I could finally hear myself. Day 3 was the day everything changed. I woke up before my alarm and did not feel the usual pull to check my phone. There was no panic, no mental fog, no rush, just calm. A quiet kind of energy that does not ask for attention, the kind that lets you move with purpose. I sat at my desk and started working. And this time I entered deep focus. Not forced focus, not, I should really concentrate, focus, but real focus, the kind where 1 hour feels like 10 minutes, where your mind stops fighting itself, and where work becomes simple again. I finished task after task with a calm I had not felt in a long time, and while I worked, I started to notice something deeper. My mind was not just more focused, it was clearer. I began seeing my life differently. I could see where I had been wasting energy, where I had been confusing motion with progress, and where I had been running from discomfort instead of building discipline. Once I saw that clearly, I could not unsee it. That was the real transformation. Not just productivity, but awareness. I felt space in my mind again. Space to think, space to breathe, space to choose. And that is what discipline truly gave me. Not pressure, not punishment, but freedom. Freedom from noise, freedom from constant distraction, and the freedom to create a life I actually want. By the end of day 3, I was not the same person who had started the challenge. I was calmer, stronger, and more present. And for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely in control of my own attention. This challenge taught me something I will not forget. Focus is not something you are born with. It is something you build. And distraction is not just a bad habit. It is a trap. It keeps you busy, it keeps you entertained, but it quietly steals your attention. When I removed the noise, I did not become a superhuman. I became clear, and that clarity changed everything. So if you feel mentally tired, scattered, or stuck, maybe you do not need more motivation. Maybe you need less noise, less scrolling, less stimulation, less chaos. Maybe what you really need is one hard reset. 72 hours, monk mode, no distractions, just you and your mind. Would you try the 72-hour monk mode challenge? Comment, monk, below.